I'm recording this on Sunday, February 15th. I had a conversation with Joel and Yerasimos last Friday, the 13th, the last day when Saturn was leaving Pisces. And in this week, when I'm planning to drop this episode, both Saturn and Neptune are in a conjunction, something that really changes the collective idea of where we're going. It is very poignant that we had this conversation during this great reset. Being at 0 degrees of Aries is very, very interesting because the orientation is towards individuality, and once individuals are free, they can actually collaborate and contribute to the collective from a very grounded principle. If you've been following my writing, either reading or listening, you know that the core principles of myself are about authenticity, about accountability, and about being oneself. In this conversation with Yerasimos and Joel, two people who are now I call my friends, what struck me the most was how simple and radical their premises is. All we can do is be ourselves. From that place, community forms naturally, because when you're anchoring who you are, you attract others who are doing the same. Their work is composed of their podcast that is called Here for the Truth. I was a guest, I'll put a link below. Their community, Friends of the Truth, also put a link below, and the program that they're offering is called Rise Above the Herd, where we talk deeply in this episode. They all work hand in hand. Know thyself, give your gifts, cultivate self-esteem, discernment, and clear communication. It begins with knowing who you are. From that grounded individuality, something true and coherent can be built together. And this is where we all resonate. I invite you to listen and ask yourself the question if, beyond a reading with me, which many of you have had, you need further support, let me know. And by the way, they're now accepting Bitcoin and Lightning. Enjoy.
Oh, hello,
Hello.
hello, hello.
Oh,
Second place Arab coming in second.
I was in the waiting room for like 3 minutes.
I don't know about that.
Hello, Monica.
we're always going to compete. Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. You look good.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel better because I've been, after 1 month, I don't like to say sick, but under the weather since I came back from Colombia. I'm like dealing with a lot of separation issues and stuff like that, but I'm good now. This week is like back on track. But
Nice.
you will hear a cough here and there, and
All right.
it is what it is.
As they say in the G&M world, you're never sick. You're either adapting or healing.
There you go. That's where I am. I'm healing. I'm a
That's it.
healer.
You're
There you
healing.
go. So
Wow, this is exciting. I feel so honored to be on this show.
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to record like that. I'm going to make a decision at the end if we're going to do audio, but maybe we can do it video because you guys are very funny. Uh,
And handsome as well.
yeah.
Yes.
How dare you deprive your audience and
Exactly.
just have them listen to our voices.
No. I think it will be good. It will be fun, and I'm super excited. I came with this idea. So we got back a little bit. Like I joined your community probably mid-October, so that will make it 4 months now. And I have to say that I'm having so much fun. I've been allergic to communities for a long time. I have a lot of issues with communities and collective, but here I do find that there's so much space for me at my own pace. And one of the reasons why I want to do this is because both your leadership is something that I think that makes the community really impressive. Like I've been in other communities where there were people leading, but it was always very chaotic and there was a lot of conflict inside. So there were communities who were like having a constitution of how we're supposed to behave. And I was like rolling my eyes back and forth, going like, oh my God, like, do we have to tell people how to behave? That's
Yeah.
everything.
It's like
I hate that. I hate
healthy
that.
people. Yeah, healthy people should just know how to behave. And then if you
Yeah.
don't behave well, you just weed yourself out because you're around
Yeah.
other healthy, conscious, emotionally intelligent people, and so like the vibe ain't right.
Yeah.
100%. So I think that, one of the things that I love, I love many components of it. Obviously, what first attracted me was both your Instagram and how like you're voicing your ideas unshamelessly. Like that
I love. And then that led me to, okay, I'm going to listen to the podcast. So, no, the other way around. I started listening to the podcast, and I went to your Instagrams, and then I wanted to be in the podcast. I kind of like offer myself as a good manifesto, like, hey, can I be there? And I used to be more shy about it, but now I know if I have something of value, the most people can say is no. And I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. But you guys were very kind, and you allowed me to get in, and we had a good time on that podcast. And, I'm going to put a link below for whoever wants to listen to it. And then a few weeks later, I said, oh, I really want to join this place, but I want to be careful how I do it, because I don't want to go as a manifester. Sometimes I get a lot of rejection. And so I don't want to be, again, like 9 years old going, nobody loves me. But I thought, no, this is a place for practice. It's like a dojo, like where I'm going to actually watch my emotional wave to see if it's okay for me to inform. Is it okay for me to respond to certain things? I don't have to, and so on and so forth. One of the things that you do, and I'm very interested in talking about today, but we're going to go a little bit further, is the program that you have crafted for the people, because you have so many layers. You have the podcast, you have the community, Friends of the Truth, which I adore, but you also have the Rise Above the Herd. And so there's so many things weaving in your lives that are really supporting the collective. But I see that the support that you give to the collective, it comes from a very individual place. So that's why I would like to start from the very beginning. I want to know a little bit, like both of you are creatives, like everybody in the world, but you are also really, you have also related to artistic expressions, each one differently. And so I want to know a little bit about that, like what part of that self was alive and inside of you since you were a child. I'm trying to think about either Yerasimos or Joel being 4, 5, 6 year old, and already having that creative spark be present. And either you were fighting your parents to see you, or you were already having the authority to say, I'm a creator, I'm going to do this artistically, because I feel that part of the fact that you guys are good leaders is because you have a good relationship to that part of yourselves. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Joel, you can start.
Wow, putting me in the spotlight, I see.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting question, Monica. It's not something like I've really contemplated, especially around that really early age period. But what I can say for myself, and something that I've known about myself for as long as I've known myself, is when I get a creative hit, it's just like all encompassing. Like it colors my entire world. It gives me a surge of energy which cannot be ignored. And I just have to go with it wherever it's taking me. And, like one of my greatest memories growing up for me, like, I'm not sure if your audience knows, but I'm also like a hip hop artist and I write rap, is when I first discovered this vessel of creativity through music. Actually, before hip hop, I was playing bass guitar. And then just being alone in my creative container to play and to experiment and to like work on a skill and to work on this. And then, create something. Like, for example, I remember writing my first rhymes and then like just downloading like random beats from YouTube and then using like GarageBand back then. And then recording raps that I wrote over random beats, then hearing the product and the output and just getting that mirror and that reflection and being like, damn, like something dope is coming through me. And that's just always the space that I've kind of wanted to be in, you know? And when I think about how that applies to what we're creating at Here for the Truth, like that same creative energy comes through me in these vessels and in these containers, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the community, whether it's the coaching program. And I think real creativity and genuine creativity, what makes it creative is the creator's inherent willingness to go against the status quo and to go against the crowd and to actually like go against the grain and stand out in that way. And I just feel like that's really what we're doing at Here for the Truth. It's like, I feel like Yerasimos and I have really strong senses And what we build within our communities and our spaces, it really is just dictated by our core and by our willingness to stay close to our center. And so it doesn't become wishy-washy with everyone else's ideas and opinions. Like everything is always challenged through our own personal, collective, creative process. And then we navigate from there, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, like, and then I think about like just who I am. Like I'm a generator, you know, as you know, like I've got very strong Scorpio placements. And it's just this conviction to whatever is happening internally. It's like nothing else matters apart from that conviction, you know? And it's like, yeah, like sometimes I think to really pursue a creative act and bring forth something great into the world, you have to be unreasonably committed to your creative convictions. And that's how I feel as a starting point.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. You want to add something? I'm going to follow through after Yerasimos shares. Otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
you'll
I'll
be
just share a
upset.
little bit about my experience. The first act of creation was when I was born on June 17th, 1980.
Beautiful.
Um,
Well, I can still see that same spark in your eyes right now.
but it's interesting that you say that because I think I was having this conversation. I don't know if it was Joel Schaefer or someone, but it's like there's always been this sense of wonder and curiosity and playfulness in me that like started young. And I was blessed to have like loving parents that didn't like beat it out of me. Now they conditioned me in their own ways that they did, but I feel like in my youth there was just always this playfulness, that like silliness and wanting to have fun and wanting to explore and honoring myself. Even at a young age, there was always a lot of like honoring who I was, whether it was in school, whether it was in the athletics I did, or even just like when I was younger and playing around with acting in my church communities and doing Greek plays and things of that nature. And so, yeah, obviously, many people know that I went on the creative path and pursued an acting career and trained as an actor for, probably close to 10 years. And then I decided to move away from that. But I've just always been into expression, education, but educating through this place of like a heartfelt place as best as I can, and also a playfulness. And I think when I think about Friends of the Truth, when I think about Rise Above the Herd and the podcast, like when I just from my point of view, I like bringing the lightness into like deep things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like dancing between the poles of like, work and trauma and depth and truth and what's going on in the world, and just like the beauty of being alive and the simplicity and the lightness and the playfulness and not taking yourself too seriously. And I think that's something that Joel and I have, is that we don't, like, I think we have a lot to share. I think we have our convictions and our opinions, and we can inspire people, but we also don't take ourselves super seriously on one side of things. And so there's a playfulness even between us, that I think then like filters into the community. So it's always fun to see people kind of like poke fun and joke and be silly. And it's because, we set the container to some degree,
Yes.
and so yeah, I always, even getting into deep personal development work, I just bringing the heart and the humor is something that is really, really important to me. And I think provides a lot of healing and growth instead of just all this like heaviness and seriousness.
Yeah, I agree with that because I have a little bit of both, and I'm also creatively artistic. And so one of the things that I was thinking when I was listening to you both in a different way was that I think when you're pursuing something that has to do with validating your own talent or even your own curiosity or your own sense of humor, because you tell jokes to mom to make her laugh, or you go to school and you become goofy because you want people to love you, etc., etc. So there's this kind of acting or exercising this idea with the others. But then I think it really establishes a very deep connection to inner dialogue, to how for instance when you write a song and you want to play it in your room and you're 8 years old or 10 years old, or you're playing the guitar and then you're listening to yourself, you go from being very shy because you discovered that there's this instrument that is actually connected to your body, is connected to your will, and then you are so proud that you want to go to one of your parents or your siblings or I don't know, the neighbor, and you show up saying, this is what I did. Same with acting, or same as an artist. Like, I'm blessed because my mom always supported that part. So I think that and I don't know, I'm not like saying this is the reason why you're so successful in leadership, but because you have developed that uh, kind of inner dialogue, it comes as like you guys are based already. You're not, you don't have to be validating each other in front of each other. So we love you. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense, and it's a process too, because I can think back when I was younger where I cared a little bit more about people's validation, and then now I just care about being myself and the weirdness and the complexity and the nuance, and if people are into it, they're into it. If they're not, they're not. Like I don't really care as much about that, but it's definitely fun to witness between us, and also just again like all we can do is be ourselves, and then through that process we attract other people that are just being themselves, and then that's how community is formed. Okay, and we talk about this all the time. It's like the individual versus the collective. The individual doesn't need to sacrifice themselves to become part of the collective, which is what we've seen for many, 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 many years. We're moving into this new place where the individual is at the center, but not as a lone wolf, where their unique gifts, their values are honored and respected within the community, within the collective. So there is no sacrifice. Sometimes there might be some hierarchy that takes place because that's just natural, and that's what happens. But generally speaking, it's like, no, I want you to be the fullest version, the most awesome version of yourself. Know yourself, love yourself, and give your gifts. And it's like, let's all come together. And then what can be built from that? And how can we inspire one another? So that's the thing I love about Friends of the Truth, and like where we're moving in the world and in society.
Yeah, I'm gonna, before I let Joel speak, I'm gonna say something. I don't know if you both are aware that today is the last day that Saturn, it's in Pisces. So Saturn takes 29 years to go around. That's why we have the Saturn return around 29, 30 years old. And Saturn, which is Chronos, represents time, but it also represents definition, hierarchy. It's also connected to the archetype of Capricorn. So it is at the last degree of the zodiac. It's 29 degrees, 50 something minutes. And tonight it's just going to go into Aries, and it's going to join Neptune there. And next week we have an incredible, incredible conjunction. So I wanted to respond to you, Yerasimos, because what you're speaking there and what I know is being spoken in the community is that we cannot get into the illusion that in order to save society, we have to sacrifice ourselves. It's the other way around. It's like, get to know who you are as an individual. And then with that knowledge, you bring forth to the collective and you stop living the illusion. I wanted to make that parenthesis because today, when you said that today we were going to record, I was like, yes, because this is like the last bit of that fog, what I call the collective blob, like people are like all over the place. But anyway,
yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Joel?
Oh, I was just going to comment on what Yerasimos was saying previously. I think, what people resonate with is that the permission that we have internally within ourselves to be ourselves then bleeds into everyone else. I think what people love about Friends of the Truth is that they see how much permission we've given ourselves to be as real as possible. And then that gives that gives them that same level of permission. And I think that's where a lot of the beauty and the resonance also comes from.
Yeah, one thing that, for instance, I noticed from the very beginning with the podcast was that, obviously it's in the title, here for the truth. And that word truth for me has always been my guiding light. It's like, I can't be in this life if I don't know what the truth is. And it became a journey. I was like seeking so much for it that at one point I was completely lost because it was not this, it was not that. Since 2020, I started feeling that I embody my truth, meaning that I'm stopped searching and seeking and looking up to others, but I start becoming my own person, my own authority. So I also wanted to ask, is there a specific moment where you went from like the creativity of being artistically and like completely devoted through different ways, like all the things that brought you here? When is it that you start recognizing that the truth is really what is leading you?
Yeah.
Well,
you
can go, bro. You can go. Well, okay. I will. Well, it's tricky because it's like I'm just thinking about periods of my life. And so, I grow up, I go to school, and I go to college, and I kind of follow the norm. I get good grades in school, good grades in college, and then I get my job post-college. And then it was like cool. I mean, it was fine, but then I realized this wasn't what I wanted. You know, I grew up in the restaurant business. You know, I went to school for hotel restaurant management. I thought I was going to be this big hotelier, you know, managing hotels or rising up the corporate ladder. I mean, maybe I don't know if I thought that, but that was the path I was on, you know, someone in early 20s. But then, yeah, I just had like a flash of insight one day, 2 years into my job. And I went, this isn't for me. This was right post 9/11 too. So like the hotel industry really like took a hit. There was a lot of stuff shifting around that time. And I went, I my life force is being drained. Like I want to be lit up. I want to be excited. This is before I even knew about human design. And so that's kind of been my guiding principle of inner authority, inner truth is like what lights me up, what excites me. And that when something doesn't, that's the signpost that a change needs to be made. And so for me, that big change happened when I left that job. I packed a suitcase full of books and I went to my parents' home in Greece and during the Olympics in 2004. And I spent my time reading and reading and reading and reading. And that's all I really did was really take time to reflect and be with myself because it's really hard to get to the truth, especially of who you are. If you're in this hamster fucking wheel, going, distracted, like you have to make time for yourself. There has to be some peace and stillness and reflection and like some time where you're not just doing. And for me, that was a big piece. And that set the stage for everything to follow. And many other decisions like that happened in my life where it was like, okay, I got what I got from this experience, but what's the next thing? And again, before I even knew human design and knew about my authority, I realized looking back, I made a lot of decisions as a sacral being with an emotional authority. And so I would get this hit of like, fuck yes. But then I was like, well, let me just wait and see and feel things out. And then over time, I'd go, this feels like the right next move for me. So again, like tuning into that personal intuition has been a guiding like kind of compass for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. You, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, he said it really well. And I think for me, it's very similar in the sense that when I had these early experiences of like how inspired and how lit up I could feel in certain moments and in certain environments, then I just started at the same time building this refusal to settle within. And, you know, like as I've shared previously, like I grew up within the constructs of like family business, which was a very large overarching theme for me. And my father and my brother, I've recently discovered in the past 5 years, they're both projectors. I'm the generator in the family, right? And so I even think back to early circumstances where, like, you know, I'd be kind of asked to do more or to work more or to be more involved or to take more ownership, whatever it might be. And it's the resistance that I kept feeling because something within me just wasn't lit up in that direction. And I really remember from like my, you know, early moments of deep creative inspiration, it's like I just wanted to curate a life where I could keep experiencing that, where I didn't have to give up that. I didn't have to sacrifice that. And so, you know, this process of coming closer to truth is a lifelong process of learning to know oneself. And again, it's like following the intuitive hits of like knowledge inspires me like more than anything else. Like when I find myself reading the right book or hearing from the right teacher at the right time, then your paradigm completely shifts. Then you go all the way down this rabbit hole of where this teacher, this book, or this person is. Then you integrate it into your life and then life continues, you know, and it's that beacon of just paying attention to the things that feel more correct ultimately over time. And the refusal to settle is massive because my firm belief in everything that we say and everything that we teach is that every single person does have the capacity to live the dopest life possible. Yes. And all of it comes down to the refusal to settle and the commitment to understanding what you authentically desire and then taking real world action towards pursuing it and just building the conviction and the self-belief over time through the micro, like, oh, this needs to shift. Okay, what's the next small step I need to take? And the compounded effect of those small steps, I think in my personal experience, has led to a life of satisfaction that once upon a time, I never possibly could have even dreamed of for myself.
Wow, beautiful. Now, I want to ask some truth here. Who came up with the titles? They're brilliant.
So Joel, so I
You
tell
mean the
this story.
podcast title?
With the title for like Friends from the Truth. I mean,
Ah.
from Here for the Truth, Rise Above the Hurt. Like, they're really good titles.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Joel. Well, first of all, let's start with this. When we first met, Joel saw my wife Sophie, and me on a podcast, and he hit me up on Instagram. And then I was like, oh, this guy, Joel, seems cool. He's into tarot, divination. He's a conscious hip hop artist. And so we started having a conversation. And then I was like, I really want to start a podcast. And he's like, I've always wanted to start a podcast. And I was like, the name that I have is The Truth First. And then he's like, well, I just got a blog, like a web domain called Here for the Truth. And I went,
Oh,
oh, yeah,
wow.
yours is better. I like yours. Let's go with yours. And then I'm pretty sure you came up with Friends of the Truth. Rise Above the Herd, I don't really know.
I came up with Rise Above the Herd too. I remember we were in Jeff's container and we started putting the pieces together, and I was like, Rise Above the Herd, and then it just kind of landed. But yeah, Here for the Truth. I purchased the domain name Here for the Truth about a year before Yerasimos and I met, and I remember purchasing that domain name and even just first searching for it and being so shocked that it was even available, because I thought it was so freaking cool, like hereforthetruth.com. And back then, I had zero idea of what this was going to grow and evolve into. But, it's like, I love that Steve Jobs quote. It's like, life can't be understood looking forward. It can only be understood looking backwards,
Yes.
As I continue to look back, and it's like these little things that occurred that if each one didn't happen or was put in a different place, like life would look totally different. Yet these seeds germinate in the most beautiful ways that can never be foreseen in that moment of it actually happening.
But it's like, what do you say yes to? What do you say yes to? Do you honor your authority, whatever that is, whether it's reaching out to someone, sending the email, like Joel and my story? Like, if one thing didn't happen, especially in the early times, like we wouldn't be here. And so cool to witness that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I would just to say that was around 2020 or after 2020. So I think that like we're living right now, 2025, 2026 is a very important year. 2020 was like the very beginning of where we are right now. And I think that a lot of people who are really searching for answers deeper, like deep answers, started really listening to their intuition. I moved to Miami Beach after I had a dream. The dream said, you got to move out of New York in 3 weeks. And I was like, where should I go? Miami. I was like, oh no, I don't want to drive. Miami Beach will do. And so I can, and if I think backwards, it's like, wow, I really listened to myself. I really listened to my truth. And then things started unfolding, which is absolutely beautiful. So I love, and I really appreciate every time, like I have to think about the title. It's like, this is so brilliant. This is so brilliant. So I enjoy that a lot.
And the thing about the title too, and we say this often on podcasts, like our first episodes weren't like, what's the truth of what's happening out there in the world? Our first couple episodes were about what does it mean to walk an authentic path?
Mm-hmm.
That's the foundation. That's the ethos of what we do and everything that we inspire in Friends of the Truth and Rise Above the Herd. What does it mean to walk an authentic path and to walk it unapologetically and to know yourself and to do your thing and to honor your authority?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the program, but I'm going to start with certain questions that are going to be woven into it. Disclaimer, I have not done the program. And for, I don't know why not, but maybe because I'm too old. I don't know why I haven't done the program, but I know that the people who have done it, they really have received so much, and when they speak about it, they speak in such a way that I know that it's something that is very meaningful and is very well crafted. I looked into it in order to prepare for this a little bit, so I have questions. I never say never, like, emotional manifesto here. So if it feels right, I do it. If it doesn't feel right, this is okay. But I feel okay being part of the community right now. That's where I feel. So can any of you speak about the difference, or how you feel the difference between identity and authority?
Between identity and authority. Can you give a bit more context? Maybe give us your point of view first.
Well, real quickly, I'm going to answer it and then you can give more context, just how I feel. Like when I think of identity and authority, I think identity is like who you are and authority is how you live your life and how you make choices. That's the basic thing for me.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Like identity is how, identify with. So you, for instance, you say, I'm a woman, I'm a Democrat, I'm a whatever, I'm anti-politics, whatever. So you start identifying yourself with things that are outside of yourself. It's not really yet the self completely integrated. It is something that it changes all the time. Like in astrology will be the ascendant. It's like that thing that moves you from moment to moment to look for a drive to look for something. So that's the identity, but the identity is not always the same. It's something that changes. Now, authority is something that is built because it gives you, you're the author of your life, and then you can only be the author of your life if you're free from slavery, from something else. So then you can become your own boss. So I don't know if, I mean, now that I said what it is, for me, it's a big question. I'm writing about it in my book right now, and I think that because I see what's happening in the collective, it's like many people are very much in their own identification with the collective. So their identity become their own authority because they're not making decisions from what is coming inside from their truth, but they're allowing the group, because they're identifying with the group, to tell them what to do. That's why I wanted to have that question.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an element of semantics that comes into it as well, because obviously there's identity that is gleaned via external conditions. And then identity, in my view, can also be perceived as this idea of self-concept, which is, what is this paradigm of the relationship that I have with myself, about who I know myself to be and what I know myself to be capable of. And when it comes to rise above the herd, like what we're doing really is working on self-concept. We're getting to the core of deconstructing the anti-life programming and conditioning that has told you that you're not capable of living an authentic life. You're not capable of pursuing the things that genuinely light you up. And you have to continually sacrifice the deeper desires of your innermost being to please other people and to live other people's path and conditions for you. And so what Rise Above the Herd does is it deconstructs that through our unique delivery. Then it provides you with the framework and the groundwork to rebuild your self-concept by working at the level of self-esteem. And so when we think about this whole idea of like reality creation, like for us, reality creation is just the mechanism of how you feel about you in your deepest, innermost realms within your subconscious and unconscious mind being personified in the external world. So when you lack self-esteem, when you come from a place of unhealthy self-esteem, then what is your external world going to look like? It's literally just going to be a mirror of that. You're not going to say yes to certain opportunities because you don't feel yourself worthy of them. You're going to settle for relationships that feel mundane and lackluster because you don't feel yourself worthy or capable of an incredible relationship. But when we work at the level of self-esteem, then all our external conditions change, because all of a sudden how you feel about you is someone where it's like, wow, these deepest dreams that I have for myself, all of a sudden they feel tangible. All of a sudden it feels as though they can be made manifest in my external reality. And so all the micro decisions that we make in our life, in terms of why am I still settling at this job that literally drains my life force? Why do I still allow this friend to talk down to me in this way? Why do I still allow my wife or my husband to do these things that deep within me I don't want to tolerate anymore? When that shifts, your external reality has no choice but to shift. So you build authority by building self-esteem and working on the level of self-concept and realizing, no, I am the author of my life. I am the captain of my ship. I am the curator of my destiny. And that happens when I have the deepest inner conviction of who I am and what I want. And I'm willing to express that in the world and not shy away from that anymore.
Beautiful. You want to add something else, Yerasimos, or I can move?
I mean, you can move on. He hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So In the last few years, I've been doing a lot of somatic practice through my nervous system. And I think that I had not realized how important that was because a lot of my nervous system was obviously conditioned since I was little. My father died. My mom, it's very critical. I want her to love me. So I'm kind of like always going between feeling guilty about not doing what she says or feeling guilty with myself because I'm not expressing myself fully. So I realized in the last few years, because I'm going very deep into that, that a lot of my nervous system was wired to her will, to her expression. She was amazing. I loved my mother. She was hilarious. She was inventive. She was a Gemini. She was a beautiful woman, but she had a temper. And so my life was every morning trying to see whether I was going to wake up and tell her a joke because I can be very funny. So we were like, and she was a Gemini, so we were always laughing, or me running for my life because she would be furious. And then I will come back and say, don't worry, I'll take care of you. So my nervous system was completely wired to her. But once she died and I started doing a lot of work, I was like, who is this person? Like, why am I still connected to that? So I love that in the program you integrate that. It's a very important part of it. And I believe Sophie, your wife, is also a part of that thing. So what changed in each one of you when you began regulating your body consciously? How did that relationship between mind and body mature? Because I think it requires some maturity.
Oh, it definitely does. And I come from that world, and when I think about my history from a personal development and coaching standpoint, in the initial stages, it was very psychological and intellectual and or psychospiritual, reading, learning about things. But for me, it wasn't until I brought the body into the transformational experience that things took a whole another level. Like I got trained in different bodywork modalities, some really intense ones. And so even just going deep in the body and getting blood and lymph and energy to move and breaking up stagnation and breaking down armoring and allowing the stuckness to move and flow. Like what vitality came from that? And also just like the ability to respond in a different way. Because again, we're every day we have stimuli all over the place. And it's like part of our reality creation is how are we responding to all the stimuli? And so if we are dysregulated, if we don't have space and capacity within our nervous system, that's going to impact how we relate to ourselves. That's going to impact our relationships. It's going to impact how we relate to our environment. And so, doing really intense body work, training as a body worker, and then getting into the more subtle nervous system work, going through Peter Levine's 3-year training, somatic experiencing. I went through that with my wife. I didn't really continue on to get certification because that just wasn't my thing. But my wife, like she's made this kind of part of her life mission. We just realized the importance of it. Like first of all, education, to understand your physiology, to understand the different states, to have that self-awareness of what's even happening inside of you. Like how many people have that level of self-reflection, especially after the fact. Let's say you're dysregulated. Let's say you're stuck. Let's say you're in an overly sympathetic state. Like after you engage with someone or your environment, can you sit back and go, oh, wow, what is happening in me? And so, of course, it starts with knowledge, self-awareness, and then doing this work that is not it's not super sexy. It's slow. It's sure there's the stuff you can do and do deep breath work and have these big emotional releases, but that doesn't always solve things at a foundational level. And so for us to have the ability to bring Sophie on board, who is truly a specialist in this field that is continuing to get more attention. That being said, somatics, nervous system is like the buzzword these days. So everyone's throwing it around. And I just love the way Sophie approaches it. And we just keep getting feedback from so many people that have gone through the program back when we did a live cohort. And even now, people that have gone through the curated self-guided portion, and then people in Wrath Academy, which is another thing we can talk about, like just having that experience and realizing how important it is, because it is foundational.
Yes.
Like you're literally experiencing life through a nervous system. And so it impacts everything. It's like, it's like we talk about self-esteem, like it's like the self-esteem of the body in a sense, self-esteem is about having the ability to respond appropriately to life. And so again, how can you respond appropriately if you have a dysregulated nervous system? So there's a lot of overlap and it all works hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say, and it's also like intuition. Like intuition isn't a purely mental process. Like this is something that like is expressed through the body, through the knowledge of one's physiology as well, which is different for each of us. And so like when you build capacity within, you're also strengthening your intuition, is what I've personally found for sure.
Well, yeah, and even from a human design standpoint, technically the authority in human design, it's not mental. I mean, it's not like it is a somatic, it's body based, whether you're emotional authority, whether you're sacral, whether you're splenic. So if you're highly traumatized and haven't worked on your trauma, if you're really dysregulated, there can be a lot of confusion around, okay, great, I had a human design reading and I was told this is my authority, but that's not the sensation, that's not the lived experience of the person. And so in order to even get the gold from a system like human design, there is work outside of human design, if you know what I mean, that needs to be done so you can continue this deconditioning process and live more like this soul blueprint that you are.
Yeah, I agree with that because when I first had my reading in 2017 and I was told I was an emotional manifestor, I cried. I don't know if because I was angry that I didn't know it before or because I was relieved that finally somebody helped me with that. Now, I have my will center defined. That means that, it's all about proving my worth, right? But because I didn't know how to handle my emotional wave, I was always trying to prove, like on the moment, that I am capable, that I was worth it. So many times I overrode my emotional wave and said yes to things that actually didn't want to say yes because I wanted to prove that of course I can do it. So one of the things that you mentioned before, Yerasimos, and I've been working very much is the concept of time. With an emotional wave, time is very important. You just have to wait. When is the right moment of the peak? And then you go back and the peak. And then there's a moment that you basically know when it is. It's not coming after 5 minutes exactly. It's like it's in the body, you know it. And one of the things that has been so amazing working with my nervous system is to give my body, not myself, my body, the time. And that has been so amazing because my body right now is breathing in a way that is very different to the fact that I'm writing my second book. And it's all about that because I started having dreams of how I have to write the book. And so it talks about every vertebra and it has a chapter and, it's going to be fun. It's like all these conversations with people that I adore that are no longer alive, but I feel that my body is actually breathing and taking space and taking the time to really embrace who I am. So I feel like it is my nervous system is embracing me and I'm accepting it. And it's been so amazing because it is a combination of my human design with the somatic practice that I learned and with the other modalities that I practice. And since I started coming to the group and discovering German new medicine, I was like,
Oh
like
yeah.
combine everything. And I'm like, so yeah. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
understanding Dr. Hammer's work is a red pill moment in my opinion. But in human design, the nervous system is ruled by the solar plexus, by the emotional centers, so they go hand
Yes.
in hand. So
Yes.
again, if your nervous system is out of whack, like how are you going to be able? And if you're an emotional authority, like 51% of humanity, what's your decision making going to look like? You know?
Drama.
Yeah, and
Trauma.
also we think about our life, okay? Everything we've been talking about up until this point outside of things out of our control, like who we're born to, the time period we're born in, our life is usually an amalgamation, a compounding effect, like Joel said, an accumulation of every choice, every response that throughout our whole life. And so if you are able to kind of like work with this technology of the human body in a way where you can be as healthy and conscious as you can and build that capacity and that regulation, your decision making, which also ultimately and your self-concept to some degree leads to your destiny and where you go. And so it's paramount that you have to put the focus on the body. You can't
Yes.
just live in la la land in your mind.
100%.
Yeah.
And
But even in the example of like one moving towards their purpose and being a creative human being and wanting to share their creativity with the world and to put out a gift and to receive feedback, like many people don't even begin that process because of the fear of the judgment that might come from other people, and because their physiology can't handle it. And even when they do then begin the creative act and say they share the piece of art, they share the music, they share the post, they share the writing, then they get one troll commenting, "Oh my God, I can't believe you posted this," or something like that. Like, what is happening within your body? And it is self-esteem for the body, because those that haven't built that capacity, they're going to then retreat from their purpose completely. Whereas a core part of self-esteem and nervous system capacity is having the wherewithal to be able to bounce back from the hits and to stay committed to the purpose and to the vision, despite what might be thrown at you in certain circumstances, because the world is going to give you shit at certain times, especially for the individual that decides to walk the authentic path, to pursue their gifts and to stand against the crowd. And so you have to be willing and be able to kind of take those hits at certain times when you're going to walk this path,
Yeah, and the thing is too, like when we talk about nervous system regulation, and I think that's where it gets confused out in the world. People think, oh, I just have to regulate. I have to calm down. I have to calm. Like they equate being calm with being regulated. But like a regulated nervous system, again, responds appropriately. There is a time where you might have to have, like, let's say a bomb goes off right next to me. Like, it would be weird if the bomb went off and I was just like, I'm so calm, so great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I might need to fucking get and run away and protect. And then hopefully when I'm safe, then there's this natural process where I kind of come down, And so a lot of people get stuck in these states. They're in just sympathetic all the time, or they're stuck in more of a dorsal state. And
it's disassociation.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with the New Age spirituality movements, because I find that the primary teachings of New Ageism, they bypass the nervous system, right? So, for example, real nervous system embodiment and knowledge, like Yerasimos said, would lead someone to respond appropriately to a situation. Whereas, for example, if someone is just in the New Age mindset, oh, everything is okay no matter what, everything's just happening for a reason, they're going to get into a car accident, lose half an arm, and then be like, oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Or if someone like crosses a boundary or disrespects you, and you're like, but I'm compassionate, and there was a reason for why they just punched me in the face. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you might be able to get to that at some point, but there are more things required of you as you move through life.
It's disconnected from the body. And we have a whole module in Rise Above the Herd completely dedicated to deconditioning from these New Age paradigms and teachings, which bleed into one's conditioning in sometimes very under the radar ways,
Is this what you call deprogramming collectivism?
No, that's module 2, where we get into collectivism and groupthink. This is module 3.
Module 3 is deconditioning from New Age spirituality and religion.
Oh, okay. So it's building on that. Yeah, I think it's important. I had a martial arts teacher in New York. I did 12 years with him, Taoism, and he used to always joke and say to the new people, and he was on 23rd Street and 6th Avenue, very much in the middle of Manhattan. And so he would say, if you see all the rats going downtown, what do you do? And everybody would say, well, we follow the rat. No, we go the other way around. And he was like, you guys are stupid. You will use no instincts. If the rats are going downtown, you go downtown. They will know where it's safe. So it's interesting because even in places like New York, that I spent 27 years, you're supposed to know how to use your body to tell you if you're in a dangerous situation. But no, this is one of the most programmed places I ever been, because people are trying to fit into this idea of this collectivism. So I want to know a little bit of in the program you offer, we're not going to talk exactly what you do, but you offer this steps to get deconditioned, deprogram, to be more based, to be more in contact with yourself, to be to be free. So I read in the thing this 2 words together, and I want to understand really what you mean. Psychic immunity. What does this mean?
Well, sure. It's a great question. It's just building the awareness and the capacity within your psyche to no longer tolerate bullshit, no longer tolerate anti-life programming, to have, I guess, greater self-awareness. those who built psychic immunity to all the programming, or had psychic immunity to all the programming of 2020. Some people have it,
Yeah.
and along with that, we have to bring in the nervous system piece as well. It all relates. It's, again, having the capacity to really like sniff out and understand where the group mind, where the collective mind is there trying to absorb and take over your individual consciousness. That's put you in a place of fear, put you in a place where you're not going to trust your inner authority, and you're going to go along to get along. So that's one way to speak about it.
Yeah. And I mean, our overarching belief is the idea that each individual is born for a unique reason, with unique gifts, unique purpose. Everyone has a unique map that is imprinted onto the blueprint of their soul. And so if the primary purpose of each individual life is to learn to read that map and then walk that map that only they can walk, then psychic immunity is ultimately required for you to stick to the plan and to follow through with the plan of walking that unique path. And so even all the subtle ways in which we are manipulated and gaslit to go against ourselves, to follow the status quo, to do what mom, dad, sister, cousin, uncle, whatever might want you to live your life, then it requires a level of psychic immunity to stay grounded and to stay connected to the purpose of, one's soul. And that's a big part of what it is as well. And the most nefarious part of all of it is the conditioning that exists within the collective causes us to gaslight ourselves about following our unique path, right? Because, for example, we have this whole morality of altruism that says, I am more moral the more that I do for others at the expense of myself. And this is how most people live their lives within the masses of religious factions, spiritual factions, whatever it might be, even just within the family units, that I am more loved, I am more approved, I am a better person the more that I can do for someone else. And so Henry David Thoreau said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And for me, this quiet desperation is exactly what we're talking about. It's the refusal to answer the call of one's own personal hero's journey, because we've been sidetracked believing that the real path is doing everyone else's will. And to me, that's what it is to build psychic immunity.
Beautiful. And I know that shadow work is one of the parts in the program. It's one of my favorite things because I've been practicing shadow work for a long, long time. So my question is, like, when you lead the groups or even when you do the program, do you still see that there's some shadows coming towards you? Like, because I believe that shadow work is a constant thing. It's not one day, oh, there's no more shadows. It's just that you have the awareness to understand that whatever is triggering you is something that maybe you need to integrate, and there are different ways of integrating it. So I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a lifelong process. We're always faced with new experiences. I mean, we know ourselves to the best of our ability that we know ourselves. It's like Jung, I believe, at one point said, or it's attributed to him, the thing about the unconscious, it's unconscious. You don't know what you don't know. And so what can you do to shine a light on things that were in the darkness? And I think a lot of the times we can figure that out by like observing our behavior, observing our triggers. My first foray into personal development work was parts work. I know IFS has become popular over the last however many years. I was trained in a different system that was developed by Doctors Hal and Sidra Stone. It's called Voice Dialogue, the Psychology of Selves and the Aware Ego. And they talk about primary and disowned selves. So primary parts of you that you would say, like, this is my personality. But then what's on the other side? What parts of you have been disowned, which is actually a term that Nathaniel Branden coined, that the disowned self. And so how do you figure out what is disowned and repressed in you? Well, a big way is to really pay attention to who really judges you. Like, who do you really judge? What qualities about someone just like really get at you and you feel charged by it? And at the same time, who do you overvalue, over admire? Who do you put on a pedestal? And it's like, what qualities about these people or these things? They could be even objects that can or animals that like maybe trigger you, that can highlight things within you. So it's just one way. And then of course your dreams very often can highlight, their messages from from God. They're messages from your unconscious of like, maybe things that you need to pay attention to. So I look at it from a depth psychological standpoint that like your image, the images, the symbols, the people, the things in your dream can represent parts of you. And so just like a simple thing, let's say you were raised to be super nice and kind, or you're in like a fawn response or people pleaser, you may dream about like these dark creatures or these thugs or guns and violence because your consciousness is like, hey, integrate me. You don't need to become me, but integrate me. Build a relationship to me. Integrate a homeopathic dose of this. How would it help you? So in the program, we introduce people to the concept of shadow work and realize that the body must be included in shadow work. It can't just be the cerebral activity. Yeah. And we have a whole module just for the architecture of the psyche and parts work to highlight that we are a multiplicity, like the great Walt Whitman quote, we contain multitudes. We are complex. We are nuanced. There is duality within us. Oh, I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm angry. And I'm like, I'm shutting down. I'm peaceful. So it's like, it works in all these different ways. And so how can we be the conductor of our inner orchestra? We have all these different instruments that we can play, but most people, they're operating an orchestra with a couple instruments. The rest are fucking behind the curtains in the stage. They don't have a connection to it. And so how do we know how to play our instrument? And how can we pull on different parts of us, depending on the situation, that's going to bring us closer to success? And I'm not saying you're doing this like consciously in the moment where you're like, okay, now I'm going to pull on this part. You do the work and you live your life. You build more capacity. You integrate. And then you just live, then you just play the music. And so, but it is a process to realize that. And again, our judgments and and the things we overvalue can shine a light back to us in regards to that. And so again, that's one way. I mean, I know a lot of people can talk about shadow work in all these different ways, but I think it's one way that can support us.
Yeah. Joel?
I mean, ultimately, like the goal is of any self-development process is for you to live a life that feels more satisfying, uniquely to you. And so even if just by going through a process like this and you develop 10% more self-acceptance and 10% less self-judgment, like the ripple effect of just of that in one's life, over time, really is insurmountable.
Yeah. And also just to realize what parts of you are driving the wheel. Because a lot of people go, that's me. That's who I am. This is who I am. And it's like, well, it's an aspect of who you are. So like, sure, you can be overtaken and over-identified with the people pleaser and people will love you. Oh, you get to do everything for me? You get to take care. You get to wash my clothes. You show up to everything I invite you to. That's awesome. And there's some gifts and benefits to those parts. But if you're all that, you miss out on the gold on the other side. And that was my part of my journey. I grew up with a Greek mother, raised in the restaurant business. I was a great people pleaser. Now, there are parts of there's aspects of that still are close to me, but I'm also very in touch with the part of me that is very self-focused, that cares about my needs, that cares about holding boundaries. And so, what does that dance look like within the individual? And that's important to notice that we are this multiplicity. And so what is your relationship to these diverse elements of yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, it's very relational. With everything, with people, situations, and things, because that moment where I see a projection onto something else, like a surface, doesn't matter if it's a person or it's a thing, but it's always a projection. That's when I really stop and pause and really see how I'm behaving, how my body is responding or not, or reacting. And that's when I create a relationship to that a beautiful part that is the shadow that only wants to be integrated. It's like a little baby says, hold me, I'm here. Mm-hmm. I always been here. And I came from a place where I had no boundaries. And that's one of the reasons why I was very hesitant to join the community. But I've been working with somebody who's doing something called Hakomi method, which is very somatic as well for 4 years, Kai. And I told him I'm going to join. He goes, oh, you're more than ready. Because I was always like, if I had not had that training for the last 4 years, I would have gone one day and I would have killed everyone with my rude. I can be rude. I can go and treat people like, oh, you whatever. I'm not even going to repeat what I used to say, but I used to be terrible. And then I will I will start crying for weeks saying, why do I always do this? Like, I want to go and kill. And it was just because I didn't integrate that part of myself that only needed to have safe boundaries. So I'm establishing my boundaries in the community, where like I listen, but then if somebody goes on and on and on, I just don't like I disengage. I'm like, I don't have to hold this. That's what you do in martial arts. If you cannot win, you cannot, like, that's what I learned from my Taoist master, is like, if you are going to engage in a battlefield and you cannot behead your opponent, disengage. Just don't go poking. There's no, so I disengage. If I see can engage and I don't see any response, or I see that the other person is too judgmental, too angry, too much, showing stuff that I don't want to receive, I just thank you.
Well, but that's also the emotional piece, because if you get sucked into that cycle, you're operating from like a high of a wave. You're just like, oh, this person said that. No, I'm gonna, and it becomes this thing, as opposed to let me just chill. And often what happens once you chill, then you realize I don't even need to fucking engage at all.
Exactly.
Like I think that's part of that process. So yeah, I mean, discernment, which is what we talk about all the time, is required.
Super important word. And I think some people always make an emphasis that there's a difference between discernment and discrimination, and it's judgment. So if we come from a judgmental point of view, there's always going to be something that is not perfect. Therefore, you're going to be controlling. But if you're discerning, you are very objective. Like, this is black, this is white, and this is gray. And there's no more story to it. There's no drama to it.
Yeah. And like we said before, the judgment, that's data for you. That's data for you to integrate and go, why am I judging so hard? What is this? Why is this throwing me off my center? Why am I on this fucking mental loop about this one paragraph this person wrote? And it's like, all right, you got to check yourself. Hence, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So don't respond right away. Take your time. And this goes from a human design standpoint. I share this with clients of mine that are, whether they're emotional or not, or non-emotional, because you can take in the wave and amplify it. And so what do we see around the world? What do we see on social media? We're just seeing emotional, non-emotionals in the most basic general sense, people that are deciding and communicating and acting from the waves, and then other people who are taking in those waves don't have the discernment, don't have the capacity, and you're just seeing like fucking a nuclear fucking war holocaust in amongst strangers in a common thread on Instagram. Really? That's how you want to spend. That's how you want to spend your day. Like the sun is out. There's birds chirping. You have a business to run. You have kids to attend to. You have inner work to focus on, and you're fucking going to war with a stranger on the internet that you don't even know.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. One of the things that I've been kind of meditating in the last few weeks, I mean, with all the talk about the end of the world and wherever we are right now, it's just like very jarring. It's trusting my sense of joy and my creativity, because when I am creative and I can do things, whether I write, whether I speak, whether I create art, it just gives me so much joy. It's like I want to be alive, and to be alive is the most important thing. So I know a lot of people talk about the fourth turning and the end of things. I'm already in the first turning. I already crossed the bridge. I'm already building civilization. And whoever wants to come near me, we can create stuff. So I want you to speak both about, where do you find your sense of joy in relationship to leadership? Because you are leaders. So do you also lead your life with that sense of joy? You use humor a lot. So just want to talk a little bit about those, joy, leadership, creativity. Where are we now?
You want to go, Joe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can speak about, what personally comes up for me. And it's that over time, through a steady commitment to increasing the amount of time I get to spend doing things that really light me up, like each day that progressively appears, I feel more and more excited to enter and engage with the day. It's like when you wake up and you have clear purpose, there is something that you love to build and love to express creatively within and on, then it's like, that is my joy. And so, I say liberation is when there's as little dissonance as possible between who you are and what you do. And I'm at this point now where it's like, every waking moment of my life is really just an outer expression of who I am within and what I really feel within. And so to get to have this vehicle that is here for the truth, and to have my family and my daughters and my kids, and have these as primary and my wife, and have these as primary values in my life, and just get to be devoted to watering these gardens. And that's
Beautiful.
how I get to spend my energy. Like far out. Like I am blessed. Like I am living in the heavenly states each day that I get to water that garden, and see it grow, and not even know what that's going to be able to provide at some point down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel similarly. Like, the world is going crazy. Meanwhile, my world is incredible. My
Yeah.
world is awesome. I feel so grateful, so blessed with the life that I'm leading. But again, it relates to a lot that we've been talking about. I think about my life. I think about in hindsight, like I made tough decisions. I made decisions that went against the status quo. I received judgment by friends and family because I didn't follow the straight and narrow path. I didn't stay, in my hotel job or whatever the case may be. I shifted, I moved, I traveled, I went through some dark nights. That all led me to where I am now, where I have a beautiful, amazing wife, a life of abundance in so many ways. And it's like those choice points, those opportunities to go one way or the other, honoring my authority and doing it and continuing to tweak and evolve has brought me to the place now where, again, it's like, because of that, I met Joel online. Like, and then we've built what we've built. And the relationships that have come from that are incredible. What my wife and I are building where we live in Topanga, our community. Like, I love my garden, our garden. I love being out there. I love my animals. Like, I'm filled with joy. I mean, joy, I feel like, is like my baseline. There's so many blessings. There's so much love around me. We moved my mom in with us in May. And like, sure, sometimes it could be annoying, but like the woman gave birth to me. I'm blessed to have her. And so I just like, a few years ago, Sophie and I kind of adopted this motto, like more love, more love. Oh, we got a cat, more love. You know what I mean? Like just bringing new people into our life, more love. Like we just, and a mission for me is to embody more joy, more love, and to fucking radiate that into the world and to show people what's possible, especially as a generator. The world changes when we've got 70% generators and manifesting generators. If generators are lit up and satisfied and joyful, the world is going to change just by the sheer numbers of it. And so, of course, my life, my unique purpose, my karma, blah, 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 is unique, okay? Everyone has to figure out their life for themselves, but there are universal principles. And so it's like, find more joy, find more happiness, find more connection, find more bliss and inspiration in your life. And if you can't, you have to be really clear and delve into what are the barriers between you bringing that into your life. And that's where the work lies.
And this is what I bring to the community a lot, is like the passion about understanding what money is, how to become more sovereign, because we're all looking for sovereignty in one way or another. And I'm not just the Bitcoin girl, because you can still save in other hard money. This is not the only hard money, or whatever you believe is hard money, but it's to have the awareness of understanding that if you don't not own yourself, you're a slave of something else, whether it's a system or system. So I know that in the program you have economics, but I don't know to what degree you talk about it, because I would like to offer this program to people who are already sovereign and money issues, because I think that everything else that you offer, it's what they need to go deeper.
The money piece is we have one module that really explores deprograms people from their views of money and capitalism and what capitalism really is, which is like value exchange. Like we don't get deep into like Bitcoin and other things in that. It's more just about like people thinking money is the root of all evil. When we literally named the module money, the root of all good, perhaps. And so again, there's space for people that already know this stuff around Bitcoin, great. But it's really the foundational programming that people have around money that very often they've taken from mom, from dad, from their culture, the country they they grew up in the political strife happening at that time, you know, that impacts
Hollywood.
people's, Hollywood as well. There's so much Hollywood programming. I mean, every billionaire in a movie, the blockbuster movie, is like the evil person, you know, maybe not every, but most of them. And so, like, how does that program people on top of all the collectivistic, altruistic programming that happens? So, well, it isn't Bitcoin related. It's more a general view of capitalism and money and what money is.
It's deconditioning the anti-money programming and bringing harmony and equilibrium back to one's relationship to money. And we basically leave zero doubt about the connection between the value for self and the value for money, because like ultimately, like that is the lifeblood of one's existence, whether you like it or not. Within Rise Above the Herd itself, we don't get into the semantics and the distinctions around different types of money. But yeah, it's more so about recalibrating one's relationship to money and clearing any barriers that might be in the way to actually receiving it.
Yeah, and I think it's important because all the levels of, and that's my criticism to a lot of like New Age, whatever programs, is like they tend to just speak about one aspect. You know, it's either shadow work or just human design or astrology, whatever, but they do not connect the dots. And I think that I know that you guys connect the dots because I've been engaged with you in many different situations where I know that you do connect the dots. You're not like, you know, faking it. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation. Last question that I have is related to guilt and duty. For me, this is a big thing because I have recently, like in the last year, really let go everything that is related to duty and guilt. Again, programmed many things that. And so when you are a leader in a group, in a community that you have built, how much of that, like, and also because you're both men, and there's this idea, I am not a feminist, thank God, never been. There's all this idea about like men should have to have the duty to behave in a way that is different than women. I don't see that in this group at all. I think that you're both very goofy and you're very, you have a very, in a way, integrated part with your feminine side. And I really appreciate that a lot because you can tell the way you relate to one another and to each one of ourselves. So let's speak a little bit about guilt, duty, the feminine, being a man, and being sovereign.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. It is interesting that a large percentage of our community and large percentage of people that go through Rise Above the Herd or were in our live cohorts were women. I think they tend to be women that respect men. You know, I think that's the issue with a lot of the feminist programming is like this like hatred of men or judgment of men. And so, yeah, I mean, personally speaking, like guilt, that's not really plays a role in my life. It hasn't really always. Of course, if like I do something that isn't ideal, like I may feel a little like healthy shame of like, oh, that wasn't right. I said a certain thing. I need to take responsibility or communicate in a different way. But yeah, I mean, I'm just being myself. Like there are masculine parts of me where I can be like, if I need to set a fucking boundary or if I need to communicate something, I'm going to communicate it. And there are other parts of me. And so I think we just honor that within the individual, again, back to the complexity of the individual in the community. But, you know, I feel like we also do hold this masculine for the community in a way that is received from people in a healthy way. You know, it's not like I'm like, listen, I love my dad, but he's old school Greek. So he's like, I know, you don't know. The man knows, you know, like that's a little like, sure, the man knows certain things because there's differences between men and women. We have our strengths, even on a biological level. But like, I'm not going to sit there and like when Monica shares something about Bitcoin, like and be like, shut up, bitch. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're a woman. You know what I mean? There's, you know.
Don't ask me. The father of my ex-boyfriend in Greek was saying like Colombia. That's not even a country. That's what he was like. Are you coming from Colombia? That's not even a country. So that was like, whoa.
That's funny. No, but it is interesting. So there is like the extremes on both sides. And again, it's like, well, how do you hold both and respond accordingly? Like if someone was being disrespectful in the community, you think the part of me that goes, oh, let's all just get along is going to come out? No, it's not going to come out. I'm going to lay the hammer down and there's going to be a tough conversation that needs to be had. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Joel feels similarly.
Well, I mean, the community is really just an extension of, the level of authenticity that we share, like via the podcast. And so I think the people that enter the community and that resonate with us, they're coming in with that baseline kind of frequency and that baseline understanding already, And so it's like when it comes to like behaving in the right way or behaving like a man, whatever it might be, like I just feel like people get a deeper sense of who we are, and like we don't have any qualms or hold anything back about what that is or what that looks like. And so much of it also has to do with like reading the room, understanding where someone is at, understanding like the energetics of a particular conversation as they're happening. Like, is a joke going to fly here, or is this a time to more seriously engage in an intellectual way? I think that's a skill that we both possess at a pretty high quality. And I really think that like via osmosis, other people within the space pick that up as well. And like, I feel just very blessed because I know the dynamics that happen in other online communities. And we just don't attract those kinds of people. And a lot of those kind of like gnarly conversations just don't come to rise within our
They
space.
don't.
And again, it's because like boundaries very often they're communicated simply by who you are and simply by your being. Like a real boundary doesn't need to be stated and repeated 1,000 times for other people to know that it exists. Like other people understand the boundaries simply by realizing who we are and understanding who we are. And so like these invisible kind of borders and boundaries, they exist and they play their role effectively simply by the qualification of who we are is my belief.
Yeah. There's like this self-regulation element, I think, that occurs in the community too, where people again just feel into and observe one another and like everything Joel's speaking to. And again, if people aren't into it, maybe they leave. Like
and they have, like
exactly, and it's like that's fine too. Like some people may not appreciate some of the politically incorrect humor that goes on in the memes, in the meme zone or whatever, and it's like, well, that's a part of who we are, and so again, by each person being authentically themselves in that complexity and nuance, you're going to attract more people that are into that, and then you have a community that, in their own way, each individual is that. And then hopefully people are communicating, even when there's disagreement. Like, it's just, you can disagree and then maybe just move on. And that's like, you don't have to read everyone's comment. You don't have to, the people in Friends of the Truth allow people to be themselves.
Yeah.
And I like
and it's
that.
because there's a baseline understanding of a refusal towards dogma and also a call towards wholeness. And I think between those two poles, that's where all the growth is happening within the community. So anyone that enters the space with a very dogmatic frame of mind, whether it's the earth is definitely flat or like, Bitcoin is the only way or whatever it might be, like they're going to get the feedback mechanism automatically within the community when it comes to, no, this is a space where we're able to hold ideas in a very mature way.
Yeah, and like you, Monica, for instance, like you provide so much value because people in our community, there's some that are into Bitcoin and everything, but you provide this value that's so amazing. And this is why we even had you on the podcast in the first place when you reached out to us. You're into evolutionary astrology. You're into human design. Like you're into like you knew Tiziano Squarzo and Mark Jones. Like there was just so many crossover points where it's like, wow, you know so much about money and Bitcoin, but you're not just someone coming in that is like unconscious, but is really knowledgeable about Bitcoin. It might be weird, like you have all these other things as well that allows you to understand and communicate in a certain way. It's like all the stuff you just talked about. And so that's what makes it cool. Like everyone can give their flavor of gift in the community and honoring one another. And so like, I love ever since you've come in, there's been this different vitality that, your manifestor, fierce Latina, Bitcoin maxi energy is just like, it's great. And of course, some people might be triggered at times. I mean, but that's your job as a manifestor. On some level, you trigger people into response and hopefully response that leads them to making better decisions.
Yeah, it's true. And I love that because I come into this community like being completely open about my informing as a manifestor. and also aware of the space and knowing that it is not I don't have a Monica channel. It's only Joel that has one. So it's not about me. But I understand that there's space for me to come from time to time and just say what I think is important. And I feel very well received, and I know some people are touched by what I do, and I love it, and I do it because I really understand that this is a very important. This is where the next question was: why do you think that this is a very important moment in life of everybody to do such a program? There are two things that I want each one of you to respond. I don't know how. There's the community, that there are only around what, 50 places left, and I like the whole idea that you're not going to have more, so that's going to make me want to sell my piece at the highest bidder. No, I'm joking. But and the other one is like, why is this program important? Why is this community important now?
I mean, listen, again, like human beings, we're social beings. Okay. We're not meant to just be on an island by ourselves. But then again, what type of community? We've been talking about it this whole conversation. A community where people can, learn from one another, inspire one another, and connect with people from all around the world on subjects that we find are important, interesting, and cutting edge, and go against the status quo and challenge the inverted society and the inverted education that we've been given most of our lives. That's why I think the community piece is important. But then the program piece is like, so you can be in a community like this and be the best version of yourself and really know yourself and give your gifts and have self-esteem and be discerning and communicate clearly. So they work hand in hand. And we're moving again into this new phase of world, even the change to like 2027, what's going on in human design is like, we have to truly be the authority of our lives. We have to build more regulation within our nervous systems. We have to know ourselves and what we offer and what we bring to the world. And so that's our MO. Become who you were born to be. Self-concept is destiny, which is a Nathaniel Branden term. Like, these are the things that matter to us, that we want to rub off on others, that we want to inspire people so they can stand on 2 feet and not just be thrown off because of something happening in the mainstream media or even something going on in the new mainstream media, which is the alternative media. You're like, I know who I am. I understand my body and my physiology. I've dabbled with some of these esoteric arts, whether it's human design or astrology, and I understand I'm this gift, this unique gift, this miracle of existence. I understand that. And I want to move forward in the world feeling good about myself and who I am and attract aligned relationships and have love and joy and bliss in my life and not get sucked into the fear and the doom and the gloom. Like, that's not our birthright. Our birthright is to be educated, empowered, lit up, have peace in our life, harmony, joy, spread love without bypassing the other stuff, understanding what exists within us and understanding what exists in the world, but choosing not that. Like, it's like, not today, Satan. I'm choosing love. I'm choosing harmony. I'm choosing inspiration and passion and connection and community. And I'm just going to let that build. That's what we're about from my point of view.
Damn. Nice, man. He said it. And I mean, the key difference between like us and like other alternative media platforms is that the extension of most other alternative media platforms tends to paint like a very nihilistic view of the world and where we're going. It's very externally focused. It's all about, trying to figure out what is the truth out there, what's really happening in the underbelly of the power structures of the earth. And it's like, that's just not what this is. When we say here for the truth, like, this is about a deeply personal journey between you and between realizing the best life possible is available to you. And so that everything that we create and provide are meant to be supports and pillars along that path. So unless you believe that your life is perfectly fulfilled, you have everything figured out, you wake up every day, you're fully connected to purpose, your relationships are beautifully healthy, then yeah, I mean, we probably don't have much to offer you in that capacity. But if you have a sense that something is off, that I could be doing more, that I have desires that I aren't currently living on a day-to-day basis. And there's barriers in the way between me being fully expressed and relating to my purpose and to others in a healthy way, then we're here to provide support and tools in that capacity. And I think this is the greatest time to be alive. I think this is the greatest time to be a human being. The changes and the transformations that I've witnessed over the past 6 years, like I was questioning vaccines back in 2015, and the level of even just vaccine awareness that exists at this point in time, if I put myself back in 2015, I would be like, no fucking way. Like, no fucking way. That's where we're going to be at. And yet we're here. And so there is this incredible change, winds of change and acceleration and transformation that are in the air. And I know what I've seen happen in my personal life by having a commitment to the truth and having zero tolerance for the lie, what's possible in just 6 short years. And this window is still open. So I think there's never been a better time to understand who you are, to commit to the truth within, and just to commit to living the best life possible to you. And that is the crossroads of where Here for the Truth exists, ultimately.
100%. And thank you for that. In 2020, I joined a couple of communities that were great in many levels, because it was through there that I learned many techniques. I learned a lot about, Gabor Mate, Peter Levine, like, we did the whole thing, nonviolent communication, circling, like, you name it, Jordan Peterson, whatever, John Vervaeke, like the whole thing. This was great. But what I noticed in these communities, because one melded into another, was that the authority was always given to these people with names. And I noticed that the community was not growing. Instead of growing from within, they were still like relying on this authority. So I had to escape. I'm like, this is not okay for me. And I kind of left. So I really, really appreciate what you're doing. Again, I would love other people to be able to join, whether it's the Friends from the Truth or the program that you are doing that is so fantastic. And that was what got me into reaching out and saying, hey, why don't we just have a chat? So anything else that you didn't speak about that it's important to say right now?
Well, when I was
Or
in first
anything-
grade, something really horrible happened to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, the only thing that I would say is that we are massive fans of Monica.
Oh,
And
Yeah, definitely.
thank you for being who you are in this world. Thank you for your personal commitment to your values and to your potential and to the truth of who you are. And like, we just value so much the way that you've inspired our world and brought energy forth into our world as well. And like, this is what it's about. It's like this co-creation. And like when energetic forces that have shared values and a shared vision like come together, like it just becomes magnified for all of us. So
beautiful.
thank you for reaching out. Thank you for instigating. Thank you for initiating. Thank you for informing. Thank you for being part of the community. Thank you for taking the leap. And
Thank you
that's-
so much
that's
for
what I
allowing
wanna
me
say.
to be me. Thank you so much. And anything
Yeah, I
else?
echo everything Joel said. I mean, it's a pleasure, and you've changed my life. Just putting a focus on Bitcoin again over the last few months, and that's been really cool. And I know you give that gift to the community for people to really get serious about like what is money and how can they prepare themselves and create wealth and protect wealth.
Yeah. And even just on the basic level of you being a mirror to us, that we are building something kind of cool, like that matters.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. And I like the whole, like how it's unfolding. I respect you guys a lot. I really think that both of you together, it's like a marriage from heaven as leaders of this community is just amazing. And I hug you virtually.
We'll hug you. I can't wait to meet you in person one of these days. It'll happen sooner or
I'll
later.
show up in Topanga.
You listen, you're
Open
always
the
welcome.
door.
You're welcome. I want to make it back to Miami too. I have some other friends there and it'd be
Yeah,
nice to see.
please.
So we'll figure it out. But
We'll
thank you
figure
again
it
for just
out.
having us on, for having this conversation, and to your whole audience. Appreciate you, whoever's listening to this. And reach out, say hello, stay connected.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Evharisto.
Barakallah.
Thank you,
Adios.
Joe. Okay. Take care.
Hasta luego.